Sure. So, thank you, Ner, for that introduction. First of all, I would like to thank everyone here in AngularUP for attending this conference. So, I wish that you have learned so much, everything about Angular and the cool stuff, technologies for the past few days. So, a little bit introduction about myself. I'm Seiji Villafranca. So, I'm currently based here in the Philippines. I'm a technical lead in Frontier Software Asia Philippines, and I'm also dev trainer in Rack Squad. So I'm also part of Auth Ambassador. So I'm one of the Auth Zero ambassadors here in the Philippines, and my passion really is to talk in different conferences, local and abroad. So enough about me. So what will be our topic for today is Akita as Angular State Management. So for all the viewers out there, I know that there are several state management libraries for Angular now. So the most common is the ngrx, and the next is ngxs. So the main question here is, why do we need, or why do we still need another state management library for Angular? So as you can see on my subtitle, it's reducing boilerplate and over engineering codes. So as we go through my topic as Akita Angular State Management, we will discuss how we can reduce boilerplate codes in other state management libraries with Akita. So yeah, um, to be discussed, what are the topics that we should tackle here in in my talk is, what is state management. So before we proceed, what is Akita offering us? I will discuss first what is state management. So maybe there are viewers that are all beginners in Angular. So I will discuss what's the benefits of state management. At the same time, what is the disadvantage or the drawbacks of using a state management. Then simply, what is Akita? So this is our main topic. What's the benefit compared to other framework, what compared to other libraries that are present, state management libraries that are present in Angular. So what's the benefit by using Akita versus the others? Then we will also discuss the structure and flow of Akita. So in this part, we will tackle what is the main benefit of Akita as a state management library. Then, as I have said a while ago, we will compare the Akita to other state management libraries and what are the benefits of using Akita. Then I will also show you a simple to-do app that is using or utilizing Akita state management. So let me just give you an example of what is state management. So for example, we have a very simple Angular app here in my screen. So it's composed of three main components. Then it's all getting this data from a simple store. So if we discuss what is state management, let us think this as a main memory of the application, specifically the front end of the application. So it's for me, this is my description. So it's like the front end database of the application, simply the front end. Then we can all, if we are tackling state management, we should also remember the term single source of truth. Simply means that all data is coming from a single store or a single memory or a single variable, or in front end it's like a global variable, so we can compare it into a global variable. Then next is, it stores the data retrieved in an API in one state. So as you can see, is this it tackles consistency in terms of retrieving data. So in API, in what it store, as I have said in the third bullet, so it stores data retrieved in API in one state. This means that the backend database, the current state of the backend database is also synced in the store of the front end in the Angular app. So in my here in my illustration, so we can see that all the components. This is just a simple app. So this is an example of an app having three components. So they need some data to be rendered on the view. So they are all retrieving the data from a single store. So the main question here is for the viewers, you might want to ask is, what does the state management solve? So for this example is we have just a basic, easy Angular app. So we are developers, but this is not the real life situation in our industry or in our current jobs. So we are not dealing with this basic app. So, but I will show just an example. So for this one, it's a very basic tree. So it's just a one parent and single level child components. So uh, so this illustration shows a parent with several child components. So our goal here is to pass a data from parent to child. So it's just very basic, easy peasy. So what do we need to do to pass a data from a parent to child components is just to use an input decorator. Simple as that. So we will just add a decorator for the child components, an input decorator. So in this case, we might think that we might not even need a state management here. Why? Because it will make your app more complicated. So it's not necessary to create an Angular state management library for Angular. So if it's just a basic app, it's like making your making your Angular application not basic anymore using state management. So my recommendation here is just create your Angular app for just the way it is. So, but as I have said, it's not the real life situation. So we are really currently dealing with enterprise or even large applications in our company. So that's why if we enter as an Angular developer, we might see all requirements that we need to have experience, or we should have a solid idea about state management. Why? Because this is really helpful in developing enterprise and large applications. So here in my illustration, so this is not just this is not a basic app. So as we can see that it has several child components. So it's a very complicated tree. So we might call this a mega complicated or a very headache app because we might maintain several components inside our Angular application. So as we can see in our illustration, the app has a root parent with several child and grandchild components. So if we will apply the input decorators here, so it's not maintainable. Why? Because we will pass from one parent to another child, then to another child, then to another child. So that's a very big headache for the developers if if we will maintain that application. So yeah, as I have said, so if for example the level 3 child needs the data from the parent. So as we know that we are applying the smart num components. So the smart components simply it's the parent. So it's the one responsible for getting the data in the database. So it needs to pass the data parent to child and to child. So that's not really a good practice for us Angular developers. So it can also cause inconsistency. Why? Because it has passed through several components already. It might mutate its value in from one component to another component. Then a series of components might have the different values of that data compared to other components. So if we apply the state management in that mega complicated app, so what will be the structure is this one. So instead of the parent passing all all the datas from all passing all the datas in all its child and grandchild, instead they are relying on the parent. So the child will now rely on the store. So it's not necessary to use input decorators in our application. So it uses actions to edit the state and selectors to retrieve a state. So we will tackle that later and deep dive on on our example application. So we can see in the illustration here that all the childs and the parents are on the same level now. So why? Because it is retrieving its data that need to be rendered on a single database or store. Yeah. So we're done tackling about state management. So let's move on Akita. So as I have said a while ago, um, there are many different state management libraries. So the three top libraries in Angular is ngrx, ngxs, and Akita. So I will explain here what is Akita. So a state management library built on top of RxJS. So RxJS is really widely used in Angular since it's the one providing our operators, especially for retrieving requests, uh, manipulating data in
I didn't understand that.
HTTP. So uh, it's inspired from the multiple data stores of flux and immutable state of Redux. So same for ngrx and ngxs. So they're also inspired of Redux. If you have heard of CQRS, it's the one. It has the building blocks of reducers and actions. So it's like it defines that every actions uh, defines a state. So in our application. So if you're also a React developer, this is very familiar. Redux, they're using this as a state management pattern. So as we can see, this is the one of the unique description or the unique capability of Akita. So NGRX and NGXS actually they are mainly for Angular. So they are created specifically for Angular. But on Akita, it's not just for Angular. It can also be used on React, Vue, and even plain vanilla JS. Uh, for this one, it's also included in their documentation how to set up in Vue or in React or plain vanilla JS. So why is this an advantage? So because if there's a time that comes that we need to migrate or we need to transfer into another project, then it requires an state management. So if you are familiar with Akita and you're using it Angular, so and if you have used this into another framework using React, so this will help you reduce the effort of studying the state management at the same time maintaining the application, even if you are using a different JavaScript framework. So this is one of the main advantage of Akita. It's not tied up only on Angular. So I have provided here a link. It's a very good reference for us. 10 reasons why you should start using Akita as your state management solution. So you can. I will provide this presentation later, so you can visit the site. This provides all the possible benefits, even the tools that you can use in Akita to start developing your Angular app and configuring it with the state management. So yeah, we have discussed what is Akita. So let's deep dive for the structure and flow. So if you are familiar in ngrx, you can now see what's the difference or how is it simpler to other state management library. So the first is the store. So we will start from the store. The store is the main storage of all the data that is coming from the database, and that will be rendered on our component. So the streaming data, so this will be retrieved by the queries. So for database, for example, so I'm specifying the store as a database here because Akita is using the term queries. So queries is the one responsible for retrieving the data from the store. Then after retrieving the data, the query the query retrieves the data, then it will be rendered to the component. So the component will now display all the data. In the component part, so this is the view in our application. So the view is where the user interacts. So the user, for example, clicks a button. So if the user clicks a button, it will dispatch an action. So same for Redux and NGRX and NGXS. So it will dispatch an action and call a service. Then the service will call an HTTP request. Then it will update create or insert whatever action that does the user interacts with uh, in the database, the data, then it will update the store to allow the store being synced in our backend API. So that's the main flow of our Akita. So let's compare the Akita and NGRX. So this is the main flow of NGRX. So this flow is created by me. So we can see in the NGRX, an action is dispatched. So if the action is dispatched in our view, so the action will be coming from the component when the user interacts something. So it has two paths. So the two paths can be a request, a reducer rather, or an effects. So the effects is the one responsible for handling observables, mainly for calling HTTP requests. So and to enable to update on the database and the backend. Then the effects can also call an action, so it can also dispatch an action. Then the action will be dispatched again, depending on after dispatch, it will call a effects or reducer again. So if the action will not call an HTTP request, and it will just mutate the data, it will just call a reducer, and the reducer will be responsible for mutating the store. Then the store will be this. Actually, in my flowchart, there's something missing. So in the middle of the store, there's a selector. So the selector will be the one responsible for retrieving the data and will be rendered to the component. So if we compare the two, they almost have the same flow, but the main difference here is the effects and the reducers. So in Akita, the service is just a plain service, so it doesn't need the effects. So in NGRX in order for you to handle the observables in the state, in the flow of the state management, we need effects. In Akita, it's just a plain old service. Then the capability of the selectors, it's being and the reducers, it's being molded as one in the query. So in this part, we can see that the boilerplate codes are reduced because effects and reducers are combined into one. So based on my experience, NGRX is a very powerful state management library because it offers plugins, dev tools, uh, redo undo state, time travel debugging, and even the Redux plugin option, even the router integration. So it's a very powerful application. But based on my experience, it has a very a hard learning curve because of the FX part. Then as the application grows, it really can cause some boilerplate codes in our application because of the effects. It will really require you to create several effects that will cause your code to grow. So this is Akita. This is what Akita is reducing the effects part. So that's why it solves it by making the service as simple. Uh, it making the service just simple. So here in this part, action are now queries. Actually, this is uh, selectors are now queries rather. So this is wrong. So selector should be now queries. Then the action here is still the dispatch. So in order for the in order for the component to mutate and state, so it should still dispatch an action. So all the states here are still immutable. So we will always in every state management, states are immutable, even here in Akita. So we should always dispatch an action in our application. So let's repeat that. So what is the difference? I have experienced this already. So it omits the FX level on NGRX that reduces the boilerplate codes. So in Akita, they also provided a built-in functionality including methods such as select all, select entity, select count, and select active. So we will use this later in our sample application that um, how we can use this and how we can retrieve data using these functions. So it also returns an observable, meaning that it has its own life cycle. So if we select some data, we know that the action is already it's already complete. So it's not that hard to know what is the current state or what is current cycle of each dispatch actions. Then yeah, not just for Angular. So hooray for other JavaScript developers. So you can use Akita even in your app or Vue. So okay, let's start using Akita in our application. So assuming we already have our Angular project, so we have scaffolded. So what we will use is npm install at datorama slash Akita. So if you have a question, Datorama is the main developer for Akita. So they're the Salesforce company developing the Akita and maintaining the Akita. So hands bow down to them because they have created a very good state management library. So in order for it to install, npm install at datorama slash Akita. Then it also provided a schematics. So we don't need to develop each boilerplate codes from scratch. So it has a schematics and we just need to install it in our application. Then if you want to use the Redux plugin, is we just need to npm install at datorama slash Akita dash ngDevTools. Then assuming we also we should add the schematics collection. So if we can use the Akita schematics feature to do's and to do's. So let's proceed to our application. So in our application, we will set up our Akita. So actually, I've already installed Akita here. So here is, we can see in our dependency that we have our Datorama Akita. It's currently on version 5. Then I've also installed uh, the schematics. So it's if we should install the schematics, it's only on the dev dependencies because we only need the schematics in our development uh, environment. So next is the CLI configuration. So we need to add that. So in our part here, I've already also added here. So after we executed this command, so the default project will be added. So here is the Akita CRUD. Then the CLI, the default collection is Akita schematics. So we were now able to use the schematics. So for demonstration purposes, so ngconfig CLI that default collection Akita schematics. So once we execute that command, this property will be added in our Angular.json. So we are now ready to use the Akita schematics. Then we will create in this application. We will create a simple to-do list application. So we will use the schematics by producing the boilerplate code. So ng Akita schematics. Then we will create a query entity. So to do's. So let's just wait to scaffold all the boilerplate for Akita. Then there. So we can see here. So we will not code all the boilerplates, the model, the query, the services, and the store from scratch. So we can see here we have our own interface for to do. So we will use this for the query. Then the query itself is also scaffold. So it's a query entity. So it extends the query entity. So this gives the query all the helpers or the functions that we need to retrieve all the data. Then we also have our own services. So this is the one that we need to edit because we need to call HTTP request. Then the store itself is the state. So this is where all the data are stored. So we can see here that the store is just a service because it's also injectable. So it's already provided in root. So we should not it's in your choice. So if you're if you're using lazy loading application, so we might change this injectable part. But compared to ngrx or ngxs, we are not injecting this into the module part as an array. So it's just a plain service that we are providing in our modules. So it's also extending the store because the store gives also a capability or functions that we can use like set the active entity or set this get the selective ID. So okay. So for now, let's remove this one. So for the query part, let's create some extensions here. So for the query part is we just need to check if the to-dos are loaded. So select to-dos. And the state. So return state that are to-dos loaded. So this are to-dos loaded, we need to add this on the store. So we can extend the store. So what will be the other values for the store? So what we can do here is for the to-do state, we're gonna add a property that is named our to-dos loaded. So we can create this as boolean. Then we will create an initial value for the store. So let's call this create initial state. Return our tools loaded false.
Are you maybe working on a different screen? Because I don't see anything moving on this one. Is it possible that you're sharing a different screen?
Sorry, Nur. Am I sharing a different screen? Yeah, sorry. I'll check this one. Screen 2. Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. So let's repeat that.
You can take a few extra minutes on your talk if you want to go over some of the things that people might have missed in this window again.
Yep. So we'll repeat that.
We can go over time. It's okay.
Yeah. So I'll just repeat that for sorry for that. So I'm sharing the other screen. So for this one, we will repeat this one. So what I have discussed earlier is that we just added the state. So this is the less boilerplate codes. So the ng, we have in order to scaffold that boilerplate code is this one. So the ngg Akita schematics feature to do / to do's. So after executing this command, so it will give you all this boilerplate code. So it generated the model, the query, the service, and the store. So currently, I'm also doing that. I'm also doing the customized codes that we need for the to-do state. So the to-do model, here's the to-do model. We will add a property later, namely the name and the description. Then the to-do queries, I've added a select to-dos loaded. So this will select the states that are to-dos loaded. Then for the to-do store, um, so I've added an extension of the store. So I've added a state or named or to-dos loaded. Then I've also added a create initial state. So this create initial state will define the default value for the R to-dos loaded. So this the default value for here is false since this will be true if the list of the to-dos have loaded in our application. So we'll just have to call the create initial state on our super. Then what we need to do here is add an action. So to do and loaded. So this that set. So this is that set is already built-in function for the entity store. So we can use this uh, to mutate the state of the to-dos. Then next is also the update. So once the data is uploaded, then the state we can update the state by using the thread operator. Our to-dos loaded. So next is oops. Okay. So we have identified we have already created a simple extension of the store. Now is for the service. So we will create a simple service that will retrieve the data. For this one, let's just remove this part.
And you can maybe increase the font size so we can see it a little bit better.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So yep. So for this one, we will just create a HTTP request. So I just copy my code. So this is simply getting the data. So let's create all the possible. There we go. Environment, then oops. So I'll place my backend API here. There. Then next is for the service. So we have created our service here. So we are now able to use here. We can now use this on our component. There. Next, so we will now proceed to our component. For the app, for this one, we'll just generate a to-do list component. So I'm using Angular Schematics here. So to-do list. Yep. So there. So for this one, for the to-do list, so we will just retrieve the component application here. So I will just let you see what I have created a demo app. So since we're almost out of time, so I will show you the sample application. So for the to-do list application, I've created a simple list here. So we can see here that we were able to use our to-dos query. So let's just review our code. So I've created the model here. So name, description, and string. So I've added the properties, name, description. Then the ID is for the that is referencing the diagram Akita. Then for the query, so I've just extended the state select our to-dos loaded. So this is just uh, retrieving the state that we have added to the store. Then the store itself, we have extended also its function, the load to dos. Then we have also added an additional state, which is our to dos loaded, that we will identify if the to do list is loaded in our component. Then the service, we have also get all to dos. So these are just the plain service that we're doing in Angular. Then in our application, so let's stop this one. So here in our to-do list app, so we can inject the to-dos query, the store itself, and the to-dos service. The service. So simply the three boilerplate the three classes are just services. So the to-dos queries, we have created the select our to-dos loaded. So we can retrieve the state. So if it's not loaded, we will return. We will get. We will execute or call the get all to dos. So the get all to dos uh, will be called and it will load the to dos. So it will call the to do store, uh, the load to dos that we have created a while ago in our to do store. So the to do store will set all the data, the list coming from the database. So the set will mutate the to do state. Then it will also update the state into true of the R to dos loaded. Then in the select to do, we can also use the set active. So this is the other helper that I mentioned a while ago. So we can set the active entity by just passing the ID. Then if we retrieve the to-dos query, so the select active, so it will now simply retrieve the selected entity or the active entity, and then we can pass it into another component. Then so this will be the one. This will be the active one. Then for the create to do, simply it will also create. It will just call the service again. So the service here is acting as the dispatch action. So then after getting or after posting the data, retrieving the data in our database, so it will now call the add function, built-in function in the store. So it can add the value in our data. So the to-do store, it will be the one responsible to add the data itself in the array or in the store array. Uh, Same with delete to do. If the delete to do is called in our application, so it will just call the remove built-in function in our store. So let's see. We have already discussed what is Akita. So uh, we have discussed what's the benefits. So we can also use the redo state and the undo state and the persist state. So for that one, the benefits really of Akita is that it reduces all the boilerplate codes. And for the documentation, I will just submit you all the following uh, for the uh, for the mm, for the benefits and for all the tools that you can use in Akita. So yeah, for that one, that's all for my talk, and thank you for all for listening.